Welcome back to Build Well, Women Shaping Health Technology. Today, we're joined by someone who is truly building at the cutting edge of healthcare and AI and is doing it at a serious scale. We're sitting down with Maddie Schults, Senior Director of Product at Innovaccer, where she leads product teams developing AI-driven platforms that help health systems, payers, and life science organizations actually make sense of their data and use it to drive better outcomes. In this episode, we dive into Maddie's journey from engineer to product leader and the mindset shift from focusing on how to build to what to build and why that distinction matters more than ever. We also get into how AI is completely transforming product development, from building real applications in days to rethinking everything from PRDs to testing, speed, and strategy in healthcare. Believe me, lock in, I was truly on the edge of my seat the whole time during this conversation with real life insights that I brought immediately to my work the next day. And throughout the conversation, Maddie shares how she leads high performing teams, creating trust, moving fast, and building products that actually deliver value in one of the most complex industries out there. So if you're thinking about the future of product, AI, and healthcare, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. So let's get into it.
Welcome back, everyone. We're continuing our conversations here on Build Well at Women's Audio Mission in San Francisco. It's a studio and nonprofit dedicated to closing the gender gap in creative technology and amplifying women's voices, which we're very excited about. It's such an awesome space here in SF to host conversations about women leading in health tech. And today we're lucky to have Maddie Schults, Senior Director of Product at Innovaccer, join us. Innovaccer is one of the leading AI-driven healthcare intelligence platforms, helping health systems, payers, and life science organizations unify data and use that data for good. Maddie leads product teams responsible for building and scaling these types of solutions at a platform scale, working at the intersection of enterprise data platforms.
So cool.
Leader. Throwing it down.
And her work really helps health systems move beyond all of those fragmented data silos to truly connected ecosystems. So today, we're excited to dive into what it looks like to actually build these products successfully and how you have driven strategy at scale for healthcare environments and what it takes to lead those types of teams. Tell us a little bit about how you got started. What landed you in product management?
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. Super excited. I've watched your other podcast, and I know this is going to be epic.
You're going to get us there for sure.
All right. So my product journey, I was an engineer, did various engineering roles, I would say, for the first decade of my career. Totally going to date myself now. And
no one's counting. It's okay.
There was this company where I was hired in the CTO office, Hema Prafulchandra. She was a CTO at the time. She hired me to build a prototype for a security product and to showcase at the RSA conference. Okay. Challenge accepted. I only had 6 weeks.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! Classic.
And I've never done this before, but I have to do it in 6 weeks too.
Exactly. And I loved that challenge. I was a very
good for you,
back-end engineer at that time, and I was like, and it was a contract, so she didn't.
You were back-end engineer too, and you were like, I'm going to do a prototype.
Yeah, that's even more badass.
Yes.
And there's no AI tooling.
Oh my god.
No, this was way back when. This was 2010. So. Yeah.
Awesome.
She took a big gamble on me, and I delivered together with the team. And in that process, what got really me interested is, being an engineer, you develop things the right way. You want to build it the right way. You want to make it perfect. You want it to work for everyone, no bugs, right? That's what you really thrive on. But then in that process, I really got interested in, hey, what are the right problems to solve?
So cool.
And that is where I transitioned. She again took a big bet on me and say, okay, Maddie, now that you've done this prototype, go build this product. So I transitioned there from a engineering role to a product role.
Oh, that's impressive.
That's absolutely not betting on you. Like, a prototype in 6 weeks, that's a huge thing.
Well, I think it was also that, I didn't know I could do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what product management was, right? So this was also that someone really seeing that skill in me and saying, okay, you do have the foundation to do something like that. So
that's so cool. That's such an interesting perspective too, because I think like engineering is you have the requirements already set up, A plus B equals C, and then like you test it out and then it happens.
Right.
There's a huge creative muscle that I feel like you have to actually like pulse when you're building the requirements and understanding those users and things like that.
And I think, you bring up a good point, right? There's a mind shift that needs to happen, and it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It took me a couple of years to get to that, right? How do I not focus on the how, but focus on the what? Where am I as a product person spending energy?
Yeah.
So that was, again, a huge mind shift. And I think coming from an engineering background and you having to work with engineers, that becomes two sides of the coin. It's a little bit difficult because you're constantly like pushing
Trying
the
to
engineers
solution.
because
what's possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, it helps you to transition as well because you have that trusted relationship with engineering. So
They
you get
know
there
that
faster.
you know what you're talking about. You're like,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, how do you feel like you got to that switch? Because I think that that's a really important concept of the what versus the how. What helped you get there, especially as a product leader?
Tactically, a lot of sticky notes on my laptop.
Yes. I actually love the chaos.
No, true. Because
Wait, did you really have a sticky note that said focus on the what?
Yeah.
Small changes. Small behavior changes.
They
That's
do,
an
right?
actionable thing.
Yes. And constant reminder for myself that just focusing on that what, right? Hey, what am I trying to do here? Why am I thinking about the tech stack? That's not my job.
Right.
I want to leave that. I mean, I could do the job,
Yeah.
but that is not my job. My job is to really direct the team, bring the right problems, bring the right prioritization to the team.
I mean, that showcases, I think, so much resilience as well as self-restraint, because just because you can doesn't mean you should. I think like you focusing on your lane, letting them be experts. I mean, I feel that all the time as a product manager. Like I can do all these tertiary, I can product ops, I can do this,
Right.
but it's like, where does your time go? How am I supposed to think about big picture?
Yeah.
And so,
and in the meta of this is, you as a product manager, you're constantly prioritizing, opportunities and customer challenges. And that's really reflecting back like, okay, how are you prioritizing your own time?
that's a
Coming
hard
back
one.
to
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing on the job,
It
right?
is.
Is
It
prioritizing our own work.
Yeah, but I like that sticky note idea. Constant
I love
reminder
it.
about
Yeah.
that final product. So
Are there moments where you ever think, what would my life have been if I stuck with engineering?
Absolutely. I thought about it last week. So I think here's the thing, right? Like from a transition standpoint, you really have to enjoy the problem space, whatever problem space you're in, whether you're like, solving like engineering problems or you're solving like business problems. Like, I think enjoying that problem space, like, and being passionate about it, like really helps in terms of that. And then during that transition period, there's a different sense of accomplishment when you're building and shipping versus, I'm not actually doing anything. I'm just doing this roadmaps and decks. And how do you get the decks? How do you feel that sense of same accomplishment? Because you know what? For 10 years, I've had the taste of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I built something.
It's tangible.
These customers are using what I built.
Yeah.
But that's not the same case when you're in product. And that actually took me longer than a couple of years to like get that sense of accomplishment where, hey, setting direction, yes, that is the right thing to do. And how do I feel fulfilled with that? I think that does take longer or took longer for me. And to your point, like, if I were in engineering now, I would be building cool, awesome AI things. But look at technology, thanks to, Claude Code and Cursor and all these amazing tools. Product managers are now empowered to dive back into building, and I'm loving that.
yeah.
Yes.
What have you been using? Like how has it changed how you tackle problems from a product perspective and work with engineering?
Yes. So I'm going to give you my key secrets here.
That's why you're here. Yeah. Great getting Kristi.
So love using Claude analysis.
Okay.
If you've never used it, there's a little... it's again a very tactical thing. There's a little option called research. So I use it for all competitive research that I do.
Good. Yeah.
It is amazing because recently I was researching a person around, hey, I really love the blogs this person has written. I want to know like what this person is up to. It went and found so much. It found the trademarks this person has signed up.
Wow.
So I actually know now where this person is probably going to go head next.
Oh my
That's
God.
Right.
insane.
So, and this is again from me
best
being,
sleuthing.
inspired by this person doing things. So that is one aspect, right? It pulls out all the patents. I was like, tell me all the patents that are filed in this specific field, because I have some ideas that I want to pursue, right? So that's one area. But then also getting the competitive intelligence, right? Okay, I know these are my competitors. Tell me the competitors that I'm not focusing on.
That's true.
That's another important part, because we all know who our competitors are. We hear them from sales, from marketing,
Right.
and so
Yeah.
forth. But who are those budding like startups that are entering the space?
Yeah.
Like, how do I
Under the
keep my
radar
tabs on
ones.
those? Under the
Yeah.
radar,
Yeah.
exactly. So cloud analysis, I use that pretty much on a daily basis. That's one thing has been super helpful.
Yeah. I also think
another-
that's a great
Yeah.
like call out too. I mean, we're focusing on strategy and building things. I think making sure you have a pulse on the market is like a
Yeah.
huge thing associated with building that strategy and like
Absolutely.
understanding the what you should be building. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And, in product, I always say there's two things, right? It's the what and then the when.
yeah, I mean,
That
that
is
is
super
big
critical.
one.
yeah.
So, hey, there's like, this particular, product area is exploding now. I'm going to say, okay, maybe there's a sense of urgency that I need to reshuffle my roadmap or have my teams direct them and say like, hey, look at these opportunities and think about things differently, right? As you grow in your product leadership ladder, there's things that you do and then the things that you have to delegate to your teams and make them feel empowered and give them the right direction.
Yeah.
Another I've also started using, so maybe I know we had a little earlier talk about PRDs. I'm saying no to PRDs. PRDs shouldn't
Yes.
exist anymore.
Oh,
Absolutely.
please continue. I want to
Yes.
hear this. Let's go.
So what I've started doing is putting together, using again Claude, amazing tool. You could use other tools as well. There's several prototyping tools available right now. Where I build out a vision aid. Don't call them design because they're really not design. Design has expertise around, aesthetics and the flow and interactions and so forth. But really putting like a vision of, again, it's a UX flow, but a vision. It's not a design where it shows the capabilities that I have in mind. Instead of writing PRD, I've done this at my current job as well. Said like, hey, these are, some visual tools. Like this is how I'm thinking about the direction that we should go. And it becomes a fantastic tool to discuss, debate, argue, right? And push us to build the right thing. I think some of these tools have really accelerated PRDs. Again, text, screenshots, whatnot. You
And
sit.
it's like a whole thing.
Who actually reads PRDs?
Exactly. Who reads PRD?
Don't say that.
But this is true
kidding.
because at one of my
Kind of.
jobs, I was convinced that nobody was reading them. So I would go and actually,
Yeah.
Google used to have this, like Google Docs. You can
Yeah.
see who the viewers of your
Yes.
doc are,
Yeah.
right?
Zero.
The history.
Exactly. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
no one even opened this
Yeah.
doc. What is going on?
Oh my God.
They
I
read
was-
it once and then they like
Yeah.
don't return to it. But it's
because
supposed to be
too
living and
much.
breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just told, like, again, I just shipped something and they were like, we didn't know what the requirements were at all. Like, nobody shared this with us. And I sent them 3 different documents that we had talked about 3 weeks ago. And I was like, you mean these things? But I think it's like a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I think like that is really empowering. I was helping do some consulting work for a really small startup and was using Figma Make. And so I'd be
yeah.
like working with ChatGPT and creating,
Right.
I mean, I was creating PRDs, but like just like a requirement to put into Figma Make. And it was, we didn't have a designer. And I was just like trying to get to a place that I could tell the engineers, these are the things that you need to be making with this type of UI. And it felt really powerful and helped prompt that conversation.
Yeah. I think it would be amazing. Like, I mean, I'm using Claude, similar
Yeah.
thing, like going from maybe a visual, should we call it visual PRDs?
I like it.
Wait, what did you say before? I liked a visual aid.
Visual aid,
Yeah. I mean, because it's not a wireframe and
Yes.
it's not, and it's not a design, like an initial design or MVP. You need to call it something else. Otherwise people will be like, this shouldn't be in the code. Like, they're like, I don't.
Yeah. Now I'm like, hey, can there be like an easy button? I click, I build this, click, and like build the code for it. And I'm envisioning like, cloud code is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Really
might,
good.
we might get there soon.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool to stitch together tools like you're talking about, like you using like the research or like analysis portion of Claude. Like we can use Claude to say like, write me like output like a PRD or instructions to input into a specific platform like Lovable or something, right? So you can have these different tools with you as the human in the loop, like direct them in what you need. So
as the SME, I think that that's a really, it's really like empowering, but also exciting to hear, especially at the level that you're at. That is the stuff that you're doing in order to talk with your teams, and it has impact in like what they're
very
building.
effective, right? Like the thing that I can convey in like a 20-page doc, like I could convey in like a 5-minute video.
Yeah.
Super impactful.
How does your mentality around these tools and just efficiency, like, I guess, impact your team? Like, are you encouraging your team to use these tools as well?
Absolutely. And of course our engineering team has started using Cloud Code and other coding tools. That's great, but then empowering like our PMs as well. Now they have started, they're like, and this is all modeling, right? Hey,
Totally.
someone does it, it can be done, let me do that as well. So slowly I'm hoping that in our teams we won't be writing PRDs anymore. I think there is a place for it, right? For example, like non-functional requirements, like hey, what's the latency, what's the throughput, response times,
Spoken
like
a
those
back-end
things.
engineer, girl.
You can't take that out of me. So I think those things obviously have to like get spelled out in the requirement specification, but you don't need like a 20-page doc for that.
Yeah, you don't need to have like, this is the user, this is the outline, and like,
And I also think like in terms of, getting a little bit more tactical, like, what we call acceptance criteria for a certain particular feature, right? I think because coding has become so fast now, I don't even think there's value in that. It's like you build something, you see it, let's change it. You can change it rapidly, you can change it in hours. Right? So I also think like, really focusing on, the whole shift left where you really focus on getting all the requirements like buttoned up and very accurate. I think those days are gone.
It
like,
always
you just need to
anyway,
move fast.
right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you feel like UAT then looks like at this point? Because again, that is truly, in a traditional sense, having your acceptance criteria and then comparing it, where, I mean, the UAT I feel like is really just like high level usability testing and then like really fast iterations.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is where I feel like that continuous development and deployment comes into play, right? I mean, I think teams have been doing that for ages. Like, hey, I deploy every day, I deploy once a week, like whatever that cadence is. I just think that's going to get big. Let's deploy every hour. And hey, if you're ready,
deploy every hour?
Of course, why not?
Yes.
Dream, my dream.
Oh my God.
Let's.
Who is this baby angel that's giving us all of these secrets? Oh my God.
So if you deploy every hour, you constantly like, someone's reviewing it.
Yes.
And that cycle becomes shorter and shorter. So I feel like this is the speed of innovation that we are looking at right now.
How fast, like how much faster do you feel like you're building and developing right now? Are you seeing a measurable change, or are you still like testing things out in order to actually see measurable
recently,
impact?
At my current company, we built an app in like 2 days. It was a full-blown, patient engagement app.
No way.
Right?
Wow.
From
Like a native
soup
or
to
web
nuts.
application, or just like
It's a web application.
Yeah.
But from soup to nuts, like the design, the requirements, and it's gonna go into production in like the next. It's being tested in the next week.
Oh my God.
So this is the speed that we're talking about.
This is true innovation. Like that is amazing to hear. 2 days, like a fully functioning, is it like enterprise consumer?
Yes.
Oh my God. Stop.
It is for a health system.
Yes.
Wow.
Right? So this is not just, I'm not talking about like, hey,
like a hack day side project.
exactly.
Yeah.
This is high stakes, regulatory, and of course you need the foundation for that.
Yes.
Sure, of
Like
course.
You need that data foundation, you need that security foundation, without which you can build apps rapidly.
But once
I
you
think-
have that,
You're
exactly.
You're a company that's your foundational. Those are your table stakes, and now you're building off of that. I mean, if that's not goals, like to the build, anybody listening to Build Well, this is what you should be doing. This is 2026 software development, like product management.
Absolutely. And the whole agents, right? AI agents.
Yes. Yeah.
We are building agents pretty much at the same speed, 2 to 3 days.
Stop it.
And of course, then we take longer to test it. And that is where I feel like there needs to be a little bit more, I would say, push in the sense like, okay, how do we test these non-deterministic systems? Great eval frameworks that are out there. Still, I think there needs to mature. They're fairly, I would say, early and nascent. But that is where we can bring like true speed, right? My son kind of kids about this, but it's not really funny. But he's like, Mom, is AI going to evaluate AI? Like, what is that? Can you trust test it. Okay, food for thought.
But also, yes.
But also, yeah.
I found this recent conversation I had with an engineer around building a panel of agents that evaluates the initial critical path. And you'll run it n times, right? And they'll essentially vote on what the evaluation is.
Fascinating.
Which is really interesting, right? Because especially in the clinical space, that's a lot of how decision making is done as well, right? Multiple clinicians with that subject matter expertise align on a single path forward.
So consensus driven. I think like especially in the healthcare space, since we're talking about AI and the clinical workflows and things, there's definitely what we need to really think through, and we are doing this today, is where do we actually use LLMs, say, as a judge to what you're saying, Kristi? But then there are certain things you might want to run through like a rules engine. They have to be deterministic. There is absolutely no room for error, right? And this is how I think about like, building apps in healthcare, like why and how is that different? Because if you talk about, say, consumer apps or other enterprise apps, a metric changes, fine. You can use an sprint and you can work on that metric. Yeah. But when we think about healthcare, when a metric changes, a person's life gets impacted, right? Really? Depending on what that metric is. If it's, say, we're talking about like a physician burnout, okay, fine. We didn't hit our target of like 10%. This is at 7%. Fine. We're gonna make that better. No one's losing their lives over it. They're probably losing their sleeps.
And potentially, and then a tired physician is making poor judgment calls. I think the stakes are higher, even in that low stakes scenario. Like, again, it might not be med tech that's focusing on like a heart valve or something like that, but it is still going to impact somebody's life.
And say if there's, let me put like a high stakes thing, right? Say you have an AI model that's like doing, giving you a risk score for a sepsis patient. They're super high stakes, right? And we know like, sepsis specifically, like in the clinical space is a very high mortality rate there. So how do we basically, bring more predictability, more accuracy, more efficacy, like in those areas, I think becomes super
people
crucial.
Alive, just generally, ...
Exactly. Exactly.
No, that is so exciting. I would love to understand a little bit more about how you do go about testing, whether or not it is this consensus model, and how you are trying to continue that pace in the development cycle. What does testing look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously we have built out like our own AI eval things, but this is where I feel like the industry is moving faster. Yeah. And I truly believe like, if there's innovation happening somewhere else, let's basically tap into that. And you basically run faster. So from a testing standpoint, non-deterministic systems is where we're focused heavily. So really looking at our metrics for accuracy, for efficiency, hallucinations becomes huge, right? I don't want my sepsis model to hallucinate and get data from somewhere else. I need it to work on the customer, like the health systems data. So these are some of the metrics that we absolutely look at. So there's a constant monitoring of our agents that we do. And this is, I think, where the world is going, right? Like, how do we, there's a bridge. And I always say that, like, the AI, people who are adapting AI, they're in two camps. One is, oh my God, this is exciting. How do I use it now? Super excited. They're ready to hop on the AI train. And then the second one comes with a lot of skepticism. That's the second camp. So really for both the camps, I feel like there is a bridge that they have to cross, right? From where they're at to trusting AI. So things like what we focus on at Innovaccer and, at other places as well is explainability. Is AI doing the things and can it explain to me how it's doing things, how it's inferring, making decisions, reasoning? Yeah. I think that becomes super important. And I give this example quite a bit about like a Tesla dashboard. Right? When you sit in a Tesla, I don't know if you have.
Yeah. We are in San Francisco. Everything
exactly. So, the Tesla dash, you see like it shows what the Tesla car is seeing, right? Now, I don't need to see that because I can see the car in front of me. I can see the car next to me. I can see there's like this, massive truck, like 2 cars ahead of me. Why does Tesla show what the car sees? And that is the bridge of trust. Because once I know as a driver what my car is seeing, I can trust
again more show not tell.
Yes, and that exactly is what AI explainability is, and I feel like that is what is needed to bridge that trust, and to, again, coming back to like the quality, right? I think explainability is a huge part of that quality, because they both tie into trust. Can I trust this system? Can I trust this metric? Can I trust this model?
The whole thing. Are you baking that into the user experience, or
correct?
Okay,
that's where it needs to live.
No,
because because I, as a user, say, you know, if I want to if you're giving me a risk score for a sepsis patient, how will I trust it? Where did you get this from? What's the source? Right? Even when we use LLMs, we're like, where did you get this from?
And the source document or the source
of it. People want to verify for a little bit, to your point of the bridge, right? Like, can I verify? And the explainability piece, I think, is just like a great term for that. It's like, explain to me how you made this decision. If I agree with how you, like, your methodology, then like, okay, that's like a +1.
I think right now, like, you know, if apparel, and for the parents in the room or in the audience, like, it's you know, AI is a toddler, and we need to train it, model it, set the right boundaries. Don't go outside this playground. So there's a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like at Innovaccer, it's all about AI development and trying to build these systems. So when you are tackling a problem, and again, you're talking about early adopters as well as people that might be adverse to adoption. What are the types of things that you're doing in terms of discussing that with those partners, like those large scale customers, to ensure that they understand that, like, this is where it's coming from, this is how we're building it?
Yeah, I think it really starts from, you know, what's the point of entry? Right? So things that have less risk or less mission critical, administrative, good point of entry, right? So you enter there and you warm the customer up. You show, like, hey, these, you know, this is the playground. This is all like we can do, or the AI can do for you. But let's start with something that's low stakes. Like we talk about quick wins. Right. Let's show them that quick wins. And in addition to that trust piece that I talked about, say, like, you know, even though AI is doing all these things, you are in control. And they're like, how? Because you can click a button and approve something, right? It doesn't have to be fully automated. I mean, our agents come.
That point.
Exactly. So we call them human in the loop. Okay. You know, again, industry use terminology, like, insert human in the loop when you don't trust the AI. And what the goal there is, over a period of time, you know, just like us, right? Like, over a period of time, we start trusting the system when we see. And not only that, like, from a user experience standpoint, right? Like, users often don't know their own behavior. So say, for example, you know, there is I don't know, like a metric that a user is constantly approving. They never really changed anything. They're like, this looks great all the time. So we can tell the user, hey, you know what? You actually approved this like 9 out of 10 times. Do you want to just have this do it automatically? So really also, you know, making the user aware of their own behavior on how they are interacting and trusting the AI over a period of time. Then they can say, like, you know what? Yeah, like, I don't need to spend, you know, my 15 minutes in a day reviewing these things, because I'm pretty sure in the last 3 months I've seen what the metrics look like.
So interesting.
And we move ahead. So I would say, like, you know, those stepping stones. Build those stepping stones to get your customer to that trust point.
I mean, everything that you're talking about is about trust in the technology. And I think that that's like a beautiful sentiment and a very, I think, user-centered design approach. Because again, you could just build it and say, like, that's it. But and I think that this is where women really shine, where you're understanding, you're a mom, and like, you're training a child and a person to like learn things. You're also you're taking, I feel like, that approach as you model things. And I think it's really refreshing to hear women in leadership roles really come at that, especially executive leadership roles, and come at that from that perspective, because it trickles down into, like, okay, we really need to think about that type of user experience and not just say, this is it, product.
Good luck. It's the best.
So how do you, again, it sounds like you have your hands in a lot of different systems and market analysis and strategy and building products in 2 days. I'm assuming you have a team to help support you. What does this look like in terms of doing this with a team, and how are you getting that fast pace in actually delivering products?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it all starts with, like, direction and also, I would say, motivation, right? Motivation is, like, super key, I feel like, for any team. Like, And this is like one of my principles, like, as I build teams, this is how I think about it, right? Like a team is a collective IQ. It's not like one person versus another person. We often, in the industry, I've seen this and I've experienced this myself when I was in individual contributor roles where strategy is, weighed higher and looked, and thought of it as a much more prestige versus someone who is a very execution focused, a product manager. They're kind of like, they're not there yet, right? Yeah. They're at a different level, unfortunately. So I don't think about it this way, but my way of thinking is like the team is a collective, right? We need both of these people to be in the team. And then really also the team being self-aware of, hey, I'm really strong at these things and these other things, I really need help, right? So a couple of things that I do with my teams is giving them that permission. Permission to say, I don't know. And that's okay, because our landscape is evolving pretty fast. And often what I found is having that level of like safety within the team, because often, and I've encountered this as I've inherited teams at various companies where my direct reports would not feel comfortable saying, I don't know. Or they will think that, hey, this is going to be, show up in my performance review. Or, Maddie thinks that, hey, I'm not competent enough for this role, right? So it comes with a lot of fear. My goal is to basically lift that cloud of fear over them and say like, hey, do not be afraid. I have your back. You have the permission to say no, even to me. Like if I'm bringing something unreasonable, and I often do.
Self-awareness.
One day. Exactly. Like, can you do this like 2 hours? Okay. So if I'm bringing something unreasonable and you're not comfortable with it, just push back and say like, hey, no, I can't do it, And also giving them the language, right? Like some people are not comfortable saying, I don't know. So it's like, you can probably say, let me research that for you. I'll get back to you. Right. So really having that level of safety, I think is important within the team.
Yeah. That builds off the trust component too. It sounds like you have a lot of trust in your team, but your team also has trust in you. That's hard to come by because I think there is an element of fear in a lot of different places in that these things do happen. I mean, for me, I think I was a little, I finally had to ask for help, which is like very, out of my norm. And it's like, oh my God, okay, I do need help. Like I can't do what you're asking just with me. So it felt like kind of a hurdle to get over because it felt like almost a personal failure. But then, I was able to build out that trust with my manager and be like, you know what, I need like 3x. So now I need 5x, I guess, because we're going to build in 2 days. Like, I don't know.
But I think like as a leader and a leader of a team, our job is to push. And I actually grew that way. Yeah. Like, my job at, again, going way back at Databricks.
Let's go back,
Yeah. I was reporting to Ali Gotzi. He's was the CEO and is the CEO at this time. Yeah. And he pushed me like in a very good way. And that is where I grew the most. Yeah. Right. Like it was one of his things, and it really helped me build that resilience, that grit. He would always push back on if I would go with a proposal, he would say like, why do you need this? I'm like, it's security, we have to do it. He's like, no,
the law.
But that's where he really unlocked that product mindset, like not the when part, right? Yeah. Yes, it's important, but is it important now? Yeah. Can we do this 6 months from now? Absolutely. Yeah. So I think there are some leaders in my life and in my career that really helped me like push those envelopes and push those boundaries. And I do the same because I really valued that. It helped me grow. And I hope like my team sees that too, that I'm pushing them for a reason.
I mean, I'm sure they do. Again, I think people don't, just listening to you, I feel like it's very inspiring because thinking about a 2-day development cycle is, I'm like truly going to take that back and be like, how do we do this? Like what are the things that we need to put in place to get there? But I'd love to go into measuring the what and the when. How do you go about figuring out, I think product strategy is this almost really challenging concept that it feels simple and it feels like, oh, I put together this roadmap slide and like this is what we think we should do, but so much goes into that, especially and into the story that you then have to draft for your senior leadership to follow your vision. How do you usually approach that, and what kind of tools do you usually use to iterate your strategy or your design?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not gonna cover like I think the basics are effort versus, value.
Give me rice.
Yeah, exactly.
Rice.
I think let me like focus on the things that we really have to pay attention, which often like we forget. Like ultimately, roadmap is not a feature list, which often we tend to do that. Yeah. Features are means to an end, right? What is the value that we're providing to customers, and how are we unlocking that value over a period of time? I think that's super important. Also looking at so that is current customers, right? Retention again is huge for a lot of us in the B2B space. Really making our customers happy, and it really comes from some of the learnings that I've had over a period of time, like at Databricks and Commure and other organizations, where how do you build your champions within a customer organization? That is the key. So then what happens is you are not going and saying like, hey, look at all these amazing things that we have done. Someone inside the organization is like vouching for you and vouching for your products. And that to me is like, how do we get to that point is like the holy grail of, like, okay, is my product like successful? Is it doing what? Is it really providing value to customers?
Truly. I think that's like a whole concept that sort of gets lost in technology development. People think like, oh, if I build the best product ever, people will use it and people will do this. But it really means like you still need to sell it, and you still need people to trust you to actually use it, that you solved the right problem. And it is sales. I mean, you are selling, and it's not just like, we can't just let the sales bros go to the President's Club and like win all these things and like have these relationships. It's about having,
you said it.
I love a sales bro, but like it's about also having those technological champions or those subject matter experts in those organizations, especially within the B2B.
And I think a couple of other things that from a roadmap standpoint, I think are super important is looking at the opportunity space, right? Having that as a product leader, I even encourage like PMs, my PMs and my team to really have that pulse on what does the opportunity space look like, because we have lots of prospects. People are salespeople are constantly talking to them. Where are we losing deals? Why are we losing deals? Who are we losing deals to? Sometimes we uncover like, hey, they want to build their own thing. I'm like, okay, but how can we support them? That is there an opportunity that we're missing out, right? So I think those things, like how do you keep your funnel nice and fat, I think is really important as well, because ultimately, we are building products to drive revenue along with customer value.
Share value.
Exactly. And the last one, I love the Kano model, which I don't think a lot of folks use that much, but it doesn't even have to be used to the T, but just like generally looking at your roadmap, like what does the distribution look like? If you draw a pie chart, say, are you building like table stakes? How much percent of your roadmap is going to that? How much percent of your roadmap is like going to, say, performance enhancers, right? Or how much of your roadmap is actually going to delighters? Because delighters is where the magic is.
Well, I mean, how do you build that balance, especially with table stakes? I feel like this is the table stakes versus the delighters are the hardest, I think, decision to make from my perspective.
Absolutely. And this is where that timing question, right? Like always answering the question, the what is now answered, right? From the strategy and whatnot, like why now? Always pushing ourselves like, hey, what happens if I build this feature 3 months from now? What's gonna fall short? Am I gonna lose revenue? Am I gonna lose a customer? Right? Really, like I think those are the hard questions. We often, I mean, in the day-to-day, we kind of don't think about those, but this is like what I encourage my team, and I ask myself this same thing, right? Even if it's a security feature. And really also like when you're thinking about your entire product as a whole, like what are those, I don't like this word, but hero features, or maybe we can call it heroine features. Right? What are those features that really shine that customers are like, okay, I want that, and I want that like yesterday, right? Because it does provide value to them.
Yeah, definitely. And it's nice and shiny to talk about. Well, it sounds like you, again, have led a lot of teams and with a lot of strategic oversight and driving a lot of value in that way. What do you like to kind of like pick up and drop into each new company you take on when you're leading teams, especially from a product perspective?
Ooh.
There's a lot of different strategies out there.
There are. And I think that is kind of like what shaped me to who I am today, is really working at this variety of companies. I joined companies not with like opportunity, but with like my conviction on what I want to do. Like, you know, a lot of my early career has been working in more technology focused companies, at Databricks, at Salesforce, and you know, many others. But then, you know, I found healthcare and health tech, and, you know, me experiencing that, I think the one question that came to my mind is like, you know, I grew up in Mumbai in India. Yeah. We have over 1 billion people there.
There's a lot of you. Yeah.
And, you know, of course, India has a lot of constraints, but healthcare there is much more accessible, much more affordable. I don't have to wait 3 months to get an appointment with a neurologist, right? I don't have to wait like 2 months to get an MRI. And they have figured that out for 1 billion people. We only have 300 million people here. And I'm like, I don't want to sit on the sidelines and complain about this.
Yeah.
I want to be part of that solution, and I want to fix this. So that was how I entered into health tech. And, you know, you talked about like, what have I taken from one company to another? There's like a lot of learnings, right? Like from all these leaders where, you know, learning on how to trust your team. This is what I learned from my first ever transition from Hema, you know, at High Trust, is like, she saw something in me that I didn't. And she put her bets on me and empowered me and also encouraged me, because it was like, product me, like, I'm happy where I'm at, building things, right? So it was not a path that I chose. So I kind of paid forward. I trust my teams and, you know, lead with curiosity and intention and give them the tools for them to succeed. The second, you know, at Databricks, like, Ollie really pushed me to think out of the box, you know, and question the status quo. Like, okay, fine, legal team is asking this, but do you really need to do it? I'm like, usually when you hear big things like legal and security, you're like, okay, I don't have to do it. Sure. But he's like, no, you have to really think about this. So that's where I built like the resilience, the grit, and, you know, of course, paying that forward. And, you know, with Falk Godlove, like, who brought me into Commure, Kristi and I, you know, both worked with Falk, and I've worked with at Salesforce and many other companies after. He taught me that how do you influence? Like, being a product leader is not just about execution and building and strategy. You are the central hub. You have to work with sales, marketing, legal, compliance, like, you name it. You have to work with every single department in your organization. And how do you like tell the story of a product, not only internally, how do you tell the story of a product externally? He's an amazing storyteller. And that's what I learned from him on how do you lead with influence and build those great relationships and trust and empathy with the teams. Because every team has their own priorities. I cannot just say like, hey, drop everything and work on this because this is what product needs, right? So really, like, how do you establish that and align on priorities so we're all moving in the same direction, the same speed?
I mean, I think that that's like a beautiful sentiment. And I think that those are some of the biggest challenges that people are facing, specifically when you have competing priorities. How are you working with those like cross-functional stakeholders at this point, especially with like a team of your size and then moving at the pace that you are at?
So that priorities has to happen way before the ask comes, right? You have to build that relationship. You have to understand how their orgs function, because product is one of the many orgs that they provide services to. Let's take legal team, right? They're doing contracts for the sales team. They're, you know, doing other maybe M&A stuff, right? They're doing a ton. So really understanding like what their priorities are, how do they plan, what kind of lead time do they need, like being curious and understanding like how their team works and building those relationships. So time comes, like you have a need, you know what, let me get you, like, I know you need at least like 2 weeks of lead time to, you know, finalize, say, a statement of work or anything that we need, a legal review of a third-party software we're using, right? Whatever it might be. Let me like work with you and be respectful of your priorities and your thing. I think respect plays a huge role in bringing that alignment, and also empathy, right? Like, we all have our priorities. What if someone else comes out to me and says, drop this and do this, this is really important? And I don't say this, but I think about this is like, you know, poor planning on your side doesn't mean it's an emergency for me.
She sees it. She knows what she's doing. I love it.
So, you know, I let go the first time, but then I respectfully tell them like, hey, I do need some lead time in getting this to you. And you know, like, I value quality of work and I want the legal team to do good work as well.
I know.
So give them the time that's needed.
Yeah. I also loved what you said in terms of being able to trust your teams and then ensure that they're able to drive their own strategies and vision. And I know that you were saying your superpower is you come from a lot of spaces. Love to hear your thoughts on, like I said, using maybe your traditional non-digital health background in the healthcare space. Where do you think that champions? Because I feel like I like product management specifically because it is a collaborative sport. It's a team sport. You can't build something without others. And I, a lot of the times, rely on my engineering team to come with innovative ideas on how we can like push the envelope and make this better. Would love to hear your thoughts and like strategy there.
Yeah, I'll give it like a little example. It's a company that actually both Kristi and I worked at, Crisis Text Line, where there is no ARR. It's a nonprofit in a mental health space. It's a platform for crisis intervention. How do you set goals when there is no ARR? What matters there? Right? So the mission was what mattered there, is how do we provide. So I think every organization has, I mean, again, I think heavily used word, the North Star.
Yeah.
So really like, aligning the teams on that North Star, I think becomes like super crucial in terms of like, hey, this is the direction. And then, you set like, there's many tools, right? Alignment tools, I call them, OKRs, or, Salesforce at V2 Moms. There's like lots of different alignment tools. So you create that direction and setting those OKRs. And then that really helps the teams see like, okay, where are we heading to? What's that direction? And then they carve out like their own mini goals to get to that destination, right? If I'm traveling from, like San Francisco to New York, right? Like I can go many ways. Right. I can go up north. I can go down south. Exactly. Like what are we going for? So then really encouraging them to kind of think about that. Like, hey, New York is a destination.
Yeah.
Right. What are your mini destinations? Let's plan those out.
Yeah. That's so exciting.
I know your team at Innovaccer is a little more international.
Yes.
How has that changed your approach in direction setting or cultural?
I think a couple of things, like cultural is one of it. I would say like remote working is another, right? Several jobs. I think we all have worked remotely over a course of last 5 years.
Never seen an office in the last 5 years. This is the most I've dressed up in a long time.
I think from a cultural standpoint, really like understanding, I think of course the language is important as well, but like really understanding like, how do they operate and just understanding like their working model, right? Like, often, and that's where either I be more proactive or I can like sit back. It really depends on the culture. Like in some cases where I'm like, I need like, this particular document at this time. Let me give you an example. Then I actually, as a leader, like I will ask them like, how are you planning to go about doing this? Right. That's or maybe like having them think about like, hey, what are my intermediate if something steps to do that, right? If something's like too big, and how are you going to break this down? That's part of product management too, right? Big meaty feature. How do I
go about it?
Make it more snackable. So those are some of the tools that I use, like really asking them and then, probing them and see like, hey, is this something you think you've done before? Is this something new? Some people are pretty, upfront, like, hey, this is like, I don't know how to do this. Like, what do you want? I don't understand. I'm like, okay.
Tell me what to do.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, get it. And some people are like, I got it. And in that case, just having them walk me through their plan on how they're going to go about it, I think really helps with. So a lot of culture, I mean, there's cultural things there, but I also think that, really understanding the person is important, right? And in many dimensions, is it a skill? That they're struggling with? Is it motivation that they're struggling with, right? Is it safety that they're struggling with? Like, where is that real struggle? So leading with like curiosity and really unpacking that, and then adjusting my style to that. So I mean, I did this course. I mean, it's called Situational Leadership. I highly recommend to the folks. It's absolutely fantastic because your leadership style has to flex. And I was a very inflexible leadership style, I would say like maybe 5 years ago, right? This course really like opened my eyes. And in some cases, you have to be very direct and have very specific directives. In some cases, depending on the person, you can kind of, give them the free reins, right? So I think the flexing is what really kind of helps me to be the right leader for the right person.
You are such an inspiring
That's so cool,
You are
though.
leading with curiosity. You're bringing your best self. You're being open to different styles and strategies. You're just truly inspiring to listen to.
Really, though.
This is goals. If anybody listening, this is goals and how to manage somebody. I absolutely love it.
So who is your favorite PM that you managed?
It's gonna be me in a second.
It's really cool though, because that's a lot to hold in your head, right? You're thinking about all your different team members. So I just think it's like Kelly's saying, it's just very inspiring and really freaking cool
Thank
that
you.
you make that a priority too.
Yeah, I do have a tool that I can recommend. It's the Gallup Strengths Finder. I use it myself.
Oh, I love
So
it.
I really like my teams to be self-aware. I think that's super important, and be comfortable with saying that, hey, these are my strengths, and own it, and say you know what, these are something that I'm not good at.
Yeah.
And this is a coaching session that I got, or I would say maybe a decade ago. There's two strategies, right? One is, do you focus on, you know what you're not good at? Do you now focus on really spending that energy to get really, really good at that?
Yeah.
Or do you focus on doubling down on your
Yes.
strengths?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that was an early lesson, which I was that is amazing. So that is what I really, encourage my teams as well. They're like, I'm not good at the Salesforce thing. I'm like, it's okay.
Don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
That's not for you. It's okay. Yeah.
It's okay. Let's find someone else in the team who's good. And this is where I talk about that collective IQ and collaboration. I want my team members to lean on each other.
Oh yeah.
To
Powerhouse team.
right. If you know what I'm good at and you're safe saying that out loud, and I model that,
Yeah.
I'm like, I suck at this other thing. Don't make me do it.
Yeah.
I suck at reviewing statement of works. I'm not good at this.
Right, there's who are good at that.
Many things.
Yeah, who's good at that?
Yeah.
Who wants to be good at that?
Somebody sent me one. I was like, why are you sending this to me? I can look at the SLAs, but a lot of this is above my pay grade.
I think if we as a leaders model that, and then the team kind of sees us as real people, right? It's not like, hey, Maddie is amazing and she knows everything. No, there are things that I know and there's things that I don't know.
I don't know. I think you're amazing.
That's why you're here.
It sounds like you can do everything.
No, and then that's where my team, when they see me being human, and they don't put me on a pedestal. That's not what I want. I want them to see me as a real person with real shortcomings, and owning when I mess up, which I actually recently messed up at my new job, but I owned it and I fixed it, and that's what matters. What do you do with your messes?
Truly,
You sound like a parent.
Yeah.
You sound like a great mother.
But failure, I think, is just as important as succeeding, because you have to find what doesn't work in order to find what truly works. So I think being able to know that is part of the journey, I think, is really important. So I'm going to shift gears really quickly because we're running through time, but I want to understand. We're going to get to day in a life, because I can't wait to hear about that. But especially with where you're at Innovaccer and the different places that you've been over the last 10 years in your product journey, and then more recently in your health tech journey, would love to understand where you think AI-driven health platforms are going, and where the biggest impacts are going to be in this industry.
Wow.
And we can get Claude Code in here.
Do some strategy work for me all night.
Prompt right now.
No, I think the opportunity is huge, and this is where I'm super excited with the AI momentum. Unlike, I would say, when were we at Commure? Maybe 5-6 years ago. Yeah. Right before the pandemic. Yes.
Yeah.
And we were trying to really revolutionize the industry, right? And this is healthcare, and I truly believe this. Healthcare is not for disruption.
Yeah.
You cannot disrupt healthcare. There are very strict regulations. There's ways people are used to doing things. You really have to change it, bit by bit.
Yeah.
That is what is needed in healthcare. And this is something that I realized when I was at Commure. Now fast forward here at Innovaccer, and there is a real momentum that we're seeing, and I'm sure you're all in health tech too, right? Where it's like, okay, what can AI do for me, right? That is the question that, every health leader in an organization is really thinking about.
Yeah.
Like, how can I change things? How can I make things for the better? And this is not just like, hey, I want to move this one particular metric, like I want to bring better patient experience, right? This is, again, this analogy has also been used very often, right? Like, hey, do I give healthcare a faster horse, or do I really now build a fancy new car for them?
Yeah.
Right. And we are at that point with the technology that's available. There's, of course, a lot of skepticism there. And what I'm seeing right now in the healthcare industry is often folks are starting with those low stakes use cases with AI, right? Like, because they want to see how it works out. A lot of organizations are struggling with pilots. You probably also heard, like, there's a lot of reports out there, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a real struggle.
Yeah.
That is a real struggle. Science experiments, awesome. We've all done those, right? Now, like, how do we make it real?
Right.
And that's where a lot of nuances come into play. And anyone who kind of figures that out, like, is there an easy button to get me from a pilot to production? And then it doesn't stop there, right? Once it's in production, I need to be able to continuously monitor and adjust and so forth. So with AI, that self-learning loop is becomes super critical, because AI is not always going to get everything right the first time. We're going to try freaking hard to get there, but it's not going to be. That's just the reality of it, right? So how do we iteratively, like, get to that point? So you monitor, you feed the learnings, whether it's a human saying awesome input, a lot of AI platforms have that, or someone saying like, what were you thinking? This doesn't apply, right? Get it back into the feedback cycle to the AI that you have, and that the continuous learning is how I think we will all evolve. AI will evolve, the trust will evolve, and adoption will evolve. That's how I think about it.
That's, I think, a really exciting place to be. And I think, again, what you were saying about the small wins and, like, maybe operational wins in order to lead to more of the diagnostic components or the precision medicine components, once that trust is built and once that AI is, like, a teenager, and we're like, there you go, driving age or something like that. Not toddler anymore.
I have one quick question. How's healthcare investing been in the last few months? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, I mean, you all are probably already watching the space. There's a lot of exciting things happening in healthcare. So recently, last year, I invested in a women's health fund from Portfolio.
Oh my God.
A lot of interesting companies that are coming through that particular fund and really changing, the women's healthcare landscape, which I think is very underinvested
just
area.
got $1 billion, I think, like, last year. So.
And, I've done a few angel investments as well, just in the healthcare space too. Because to me, like, it's kind of twofold, right? Like, what I'm contributing as a person, but then I want the industry to evolve as well, and, make our 300 million people all happy.
I love it. Yeah.
So.
I mean, you're a mission-driven queen who's, like, putting her work and her money where her mouth is. I think that's,
thank you.
I mean, that's a testament to where you want things to be, and it be better for your family and be better for kids and be better for like people just in general. So, and that shows, I think, in how you're building, and you're building, again, for trust and for people. So it's so cool to hear.
Cool. Thank you.
Last thing before we wrap up, we'd love to understand what, like, a typical day in the life looks like for you. So again, Powerhouse Girl doing market research, building out strategy, managing PMs, meeting with customers. What does this look like?
I would say right now I should change my title. I should call myself.
I kind of agree with that.
No. I'll tell you what, because the majority of my time right now is spent on selling.
There you go.
So, you talked about this earlier, right? That, hey, there's a component of product where you absolutely need to sell.
Yeah.
And I see this as twofold. One is, yes, I'm, of course, showcasing my products, the capabilities, how, our customers can benefit from that, and what does that mean for them, right? There is that aspect, but there's a huge aspect, which is learning.
Yeah.
In those conversations, there is, like, gold of information. Depends on what questions you ask, right? Like, really uncovering, like, where are these health systems looking to go? What are their priorities, and how are they thinking about, operationalizing AI in their environments?
It's
I think
dream salesperson. Right?
So yes, I'm supporting my sales teams, and I have to, and I love to. But I think it's a twofold thing, and really getting those nuggets of information, which then really informs the strategy, right? It's like a whole cycle.
Like, what are we building right now?
Yeah, and is it worth building?
Yeah.
And is someone going to find
Buy
value
it.
in this and buy it? Ultimately, yes.
And use it within their like health organization.
Yeah, and then like as you said, like a lot of time is spent in that, but I feel like that's also strategy work, because that feeds into like how I'm thinking about the product and what next to build. And often customers also ask, say, what are you going to do? What's your 3-year plan?
Yeah, 3 years.
Okay,
Love that.
this is for real.
What is your 3-year plan?
So a lot of that is also going into like, hey, long-term thinking, right? Because of course there's I always believe and do this, the land and expand strategy. I think a lot of us as product leaders do that. So really thinking about that expansion strategy too, like, things like, say, for example, if I want to expand in different geographies, right? What do I have to do today to expand like in 2 years? Because some of those are long tail items.
Huge upheavals from like an infrastructure perspective. So.
Correct. And security and compliance and regulatory, especially in healthcare. So,
oh my God, so much.
Yeah. And then, of course, meeting with the teams, the whole tactical. So I truly believe in having like a good operational rhythm. Right, those forcing function meetings that have to happen, so team stays on task and on time, and then also working with our partnerships team and making sure that we are not only like living in our own little bubble, but we're actually integrating and working and being part of the extension of the ecosystem, right? Which is huge in healthcare, because we have so many fragmented products, which is further fragmenting our data. So, and I've heard this like from a lot of customers, are like, hey, scribe tools are awesome, but that data just sits there and no one looks at it. I'm like, okay, so this is what's happening with AI. It's a true problem where amazing tools, like, don't get me wrong, they solve a purpose and that's great.
But that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's where the puck
How do
stops.
you integrate? That's the huge issue that I'm having. It's like we have all of these vendors, but it's like that doesn't help anybody. We need that data into a centralized location to actually have actionable insights or agentic support in order to do something.
And this is where I feel like the platforms are really going to shine, right? Classic, is that, hey, platform, yes, there are things that are available, and ecosystem integration can help bring such solutions more, but more in an integrated way. So you're not working with point solutions. So that's anyways, thinking out loud.
Anyway, well, it has been an hour, and I just want to be cognizant of time. I could talk to you for 5 ever, Maddie. Thank you so much for your time. I have learned truly so much about you guys.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the Build Well podcast. All right, guys.
Yay.
We did it.
Thank you. All right.
That was awesome.